Welcome back to Man vs. Meeple. We have our special end-of-year top 10 ready for you. As always, we have Ryan, Gary, myself, and Jeremy here. We're going to try to make this quick. There's 4 of us, so we want to get through this. So we're not going to go into a lot of detail, but we're going to run down our top 10 and tell you a little bit about how we picked it. So we're going to start with Ryan down on the end.
Sure. So anybody that knows me or has seen any of the shows that we do knows that I have a tendency to love heavy Euro games. You know, you're going to see a lot of that on my list. But really, it wasn't necessarily about, like, on paper, how good is the game. It was just how much fun do I have playing it, and do I see myself going back and playing it a lot through the next year. So that's it. It took a while to kind of narrow it down to 10, but these aren't necessarily the ones I played the most this year, but they're the ones I think I'm going to play the most going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should say that for all of our top 10s. Some of these, with as many games as come out now, it's hard to keep your top 10. It's dynamic. Your top 10 might change after 6 months. We might all want to revisit this at some point. But
not only that, but we even had the chance to play. I mean, there's so many games now. There's like 3,000 new releases a year.
Yeah, we were trying to play some today just so that we could get them under our belt to make sure they were or were not on our list.
Yeah, so in no way is this 100% comprehensive, but it's a pretty good range
list
of things that we've touched.
We have the right to change our...
Yes.
I reserve the right to change my top 10.
Don't quote us on this.
As needed, yes.
Or do.
All right, so number 10 for me is The Godfather. I love it. I love that it mixes worker placement with area control, that you have to kind of make that decision of what's more important, like getting the action or holding control of the space. And yeah, I love it. I think the theme is great, and I think that it really works together.
You know, I'm going to talk briefly about The Godfather, too. I know you guys may be on your list as well, but it's a really cool game as well for the fact that most of CMON's titles have been kickstarted this year, most of their big ones. This is the first one they went to retail directly. They took a chance, and it paid off, obviously. You like it. I know everyone at this table loves the game. Where it ranks on our list, we don't know, but it's a fantastic game.
Yeah, it's really, I like it because it's a good Euro with a theme, which we don't always see. A theme that's appealing to sort of the typical Ameritrash crowd, but it's a good Euro through and through.
Yeah.
What about you, Gary?
So my little criteria, similar to Ryan's, because we've played so many games, but I kind of wanted to make a list that I'm playing, most of these games I'm playing multiple times, and I even have them in my collection, so because I'm getting so much enjoyment out of them. And, you know, I just thinking what you just said about the CMON going straight to retail and when they usually do Kickstarter, I need to look. I bet most of my lists were Kickstarters.
Really?
I think a lot of games, I think some of the best games coming out today are actually Kickstarter games.
Well, there's some big ones this year that were just Kickstarter.
Right.
Like, didn't even really go to retail.
Yeah,
in a significant
and maybe
way.
won't go to retail.
Exactly.
Which I'm guessing one of those is probably on somebody's list on here. So we'll get to that in a moment. But my first one was a Kickstarter. It was Pixie Queen, number 10.
Yeah.
I really love the unique, well, it's worker placement, but I really love the uniqueness of it's not about scoring the most points, it's about scoring the least amount of points, which in essence is still the same thing. You just got to think about it differently.
Yeah, the least amount of bad points.
It flips the script, though. It's hard to wrap your mind around.
And that's what I enjoy that. It's just a fresh, unique take at that. And yeah, it does actually have a lot of take that in it because it's thematic with the pixies, who are bad types of fairies. But I didn't mind to take that because there was always places to go that I felt that could at least mitigate some of that so it wasn't totally devastating. And the way you could also manipulate starting player, which I did multiple times. It wasn't my turn to realize I wasn't in the starting player spot, but I could go to a spot that allowed me to be starting player for the end of that round, and I could score first.
Yeah.
That was enjoyable. I really enjoyed it. I thought the board looked great, and you know, that was
a lot of cool mechanisms in that game that are completely different.
It makes punishment fun too.
It
like
does.
it's a punishing game, but we're laughing the whole time as it's doing it. Yeah.
And I think that game also plays best at 3 to 4 too.
Yeah, probably.
Just because of the take that part of it.
Yep.
All right, so my number 10 is Werewords.
Well, why did you pick your list?
Oh, you know what? I will. I always gloss over that. So my criteria is kind of all over the place, you know, because some of these games, and I already gave one away.
Sure.
They're not in sort of my wheelhouse. Werewords is not like, oh, that's my go-to game. But I think what it did this year, and there's kind of some controversy around the game a little bit. You know, it's very similar to some other games out there. But that's one of the reasons I like it, is because it has a fun factor that kind of broke through where maybe some games that are like it didn't break through as much.
Yeah.
You know, and they combined it with Werewolf, which is not generally a game that I like to play at all. So I was really skeptical about this one. But Werewords is my number 10, and if you haven't played this, you should go play it. We've had a blast playing it. There was a while where we were playing it after like every game night for a little bit, and it's just good fun. It makes Werewolf like more gamery. You know, there's more game to it, so that's what sort of does it for us. And I like the fact that it's one of those games. We've played another game recently too. It was a social deduction where sometimes there might be one werewolf, sometimes you might have two werewolves. The fact that the mayor himself, the person who's giving the clues, can be the werewolf also is a really cool aspect of the game. So it's a light game, I know, and the rest of my list isn't so much, but that's number 10, Werewords.
Cool. I try to do something a little bit different this year. Usually I'm just like you, I'm a heavy Euro gamer. This year I want to really kind of step out of my comfort zone of the games that I typically play and really look at the industry as a whole and figure out which of these designers and which of these publishers are really taking a chance and doing things that are different. Because we're seeing a lot of Me Too titles, a lot of worker placements to just borrow something from something else. Pixie Queen being a great example of a designer looking at a gameplay mechanism and saying, what if we reverse this? What if we take a chance on this kind of mechanism? What if we do something completely different here? And there's a lot of those on this list that I feel like not only did they appeal to me, but they're also just unique and new. So my number 10, I just did a review on, it's called Legacy of Dragonholt. And I know some people are going to look at this and say it's not a board game. It's not a board game. I don't care. It's a game. It's fun. It's a choose your own adventure.
You have to quote him on that.
And it's really fun. I mean, I had no expectation for this game at all appealing to me. I'm not a pen and paper role-playing guy. I don't invest my time in that, not because I don't like it, because I don't have the time. Most of us don't have the time to do that.
Yeah.
But this really took me to a world, allowed me to experience that same role-playing dynamic by myself, but it's such a simple game, but yet it also introduces some heavier mechanics that are very simple for anybody to learn. But again, it's such a well-written story. And once you start pulling the game apart and looking at how much time it would have taken to write this story, it's astronomical the amount of time that would have taken. So I applaud Nikki Valens, who is the designer, and I applaud FFG for taking the chance on this game because I want to see more of it.
It was very risky,
cool
but
game.
it looks so good.
It's a great game.
Yeah, I think 2017 was the year for you of new game experiences.
Yeah, I would consider this squarely a role-playing game, and some of these games are more Ameritrash stuff on here than I'm typically allow myself to play, so.
Right.
Cool.
Awesome.
Want to go with number 9?
Number 9. Let's go down. Number 9 for me is Coldwater Crown, which came out earlier this year. Suffice to say, I wasn't super excited about a fishing game because it sounded dry, but the actual the mechanics of the game, having to place and then take off a worker and try to do two actions that really pay off to clear that board and catch the fish. It was incredibly engaging. I played it, went out immediately, bought it. I've played it a bunch since. I think it's so much fun. It's definitely a twist on worker placement for sure.
And it captures that theme. Like I think all of us
really
were
does.
like, the theme wasn't really up our alley, but then when you play it, you're like, wow, this really is cool the way it captures that theme. Yeah, that was a good game. That was close.
Some really cool timing aspects in that game too.
Yeah.
How you play stuff. What you got?
My number 9 is The Godfather.
There we go.
Corleone's Empire. So yeah, I've played it a ton. I've talked about it on some of our other shows, but it's just another one of those games where, I usually don't do a lot of take that games, but here's my second take that game in a row.
That's
but the
true.
theme makes it so palatable.
Yep.
You're going into it. Hey, you're going to extort people. You're going to car bomb
Car
people.
Bomb, my favorite.
And I remember the first time we played that, I think we only kind of dipped our toe into it a little bit. We only played that first round or so, and we're like, because we had to go do something else. But then we played it again, and we're like, whoa, this game ramps up so fun. You can really start to see these better cards come out, and you can do all these certain things. So have had a lot of fun. I've talked to multiple people, and it's just a really good game. Eric Lang, he's almost going to be like a yearly addition
Another
to
thing I'll say
anybody's
about
list.
that game as well is that a lot of people were afraid, compared to Blood Rage, because it's a high bar with that game.
Huge bar.
Blood Rage is a great game. It's actually one of my favorite games of all time. I think it is yours
Yeah.
too.
Oh, mine
But
too.
there's such a wide disparity in the scores in that game between first place and last place. This is a much tighter game, and it has that same kind of aspect to it.
Yeah.
It's a big, bulky miniature style game. It's great. It is really good. It didn't hit my list though. I'm
Oh.
gonna say that right now. But I do like it.
Awesome components too, like
awesome
those little metal
components.
boxes and everything.
Yeah.
It just makes it fun for anyone to play for the first time, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
You get
All right, so my number 9 is the antithesis of a game like Werewords, which was my number 10. My number 9 is Clans of Caledonia. And this one is just delivering, I think, in the last month or so to backers from Kickstarter. We did a preview for it pretty early this year, right? This game, admittedly, is a heavy game, for me anyway, that I wouldn't normally like. A lot of people kind of made comparisons to Terra Mystica in terms of the core concept of it. And it didn't appeal to me, but when we played it, I really loved it. I don't know why. The theme, everything just seemed to make sense to me with the theme. It also has a ton of variable powers, which I know is present in a lot of those similar type of games too. But the components, the prototype we got was near production quality, and I just got my copy the other day actually from backing it, and I am super excited to play it again. So Clans of Caledonia is my number 9.
It's a good game. I picked Near and Far from Ryan Lockett of Red Raven Games. This is a game that I will fully admit we've only played it once.
Yeah.
And again, going back to my initial criteria, I'm looking at games that I feel are like watermarks in the industry, and I feel like this is a culmination of everything that he's done. It is a fantastic game. It's a game that we need to play more of. But it intermixes, where I didn't like Above and Below, I like this because it's more of a Euro style of game. It's got some really cool story aspects that carry over from one game to the next. And the booklet is just...
The booklet is the best thing, in my
It's
opinion.
such a cool thing
The map
to be able
book.
to do.
Yeah, the map book.
I also wanted to apologize to Ryan because it's only David and I that do most of the videos here, and we can't cover everything. Near and Far is a game that we wanted to cover. We just constantly churning out stuff, but hopefully
Maybe
you'll
we
see
will.
this and you'll understand how much we like this game.
It
It's
was
a fantastic game.
tough. It didn't make it onto my list, but only because I don't feel like I got to play it enough. But I've been just dying to get back.
It was a
and play
great
more of it.
experience. Like
Yeah,
the
we had
one time we played, we were all laughing around the table, having fun with the narratives and getting into the characters.
It's something
that
we
you're
typically
reading.
don't do with
No.
games. We typically don't like
Not at
narratives
all,
in
and it
games.
really we all enjoyed that. Plus, there's a great Euro game in there too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was a great game. I'm still trying to track down a copy for myself.
All right,
8.
number 8. My number 8 is a Kickstarter as well that we played extensively earlier this year, and that's Path of Light and Shadow, which is it's just now delivering to backers. I know a lot of people. I wasn't sure because I know a lot of people won't be getting it until the end of the year, maybe early next year, but it's really cool. It's just a big box game with miniatures and towers and decks of cards. And what I love it because it's kind of a deck builder, but it's not traditional. You're not buying cards from a row to supplement your deck. You're going to places on the board, recruiting heroes, and then upgrading those heroes by taking that card out and taking the better version. And so you really get to choose the direction that your deck goes. And man, I've played that game probably 10 times now, and I've used different strategy every single time I've played.
It's got a very cool card dynamic to it, for sure. What you got?
All right, so my number 8 is Whistle Stop. It's been one of my favorite
I knew that was
games
gonna be
all
it.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Right? But I love the tiling. I like the pick up and deliver. It's point salad. I also really enjoy it because, I mean, the rule book, the actual rules for the game is like 2 pages. So it's a very
easy to
simple
play.
game to learn and play, but there is so much great depth and strategy because tiles are constantly coming out. You might use your tiles. You might use somebody else's tiles. And just really lots of fun ways to get the victory and to get points. But it just looks nice. The production quality is great. And it's just a really fun game. So Whistle Stop's my number 8.
Yeah, that's a good one. There's a lot of different, you don't see it at first, but there's more routes to victory than you'd think, for sure. Like people can go heavy with the stocks, or people sometimes win without any stocks whatsoever.
Yeah, the replayability and the different strategies you can use to victory are numerous in that game.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yep. Number
Number 8 for me is Yamatai.
that's
This
a
is
good
from
one.
Bruno Catala, one of my favorite designers for sure. The thing about Yamatai that I really like, we say a lot when we're doing reviews that like this game has similar DNA to another game. I'm going to say this one doesn't have the same DNA as Five Tribes, but it has the same skeleton as Five Tribes. So it's the opposite. Because the core game you're playing is completely different.
Yeah.
But there's pieces and parts in both of those games that are very familiar with one another. You know, there's the djinns in Five Tribes are just like the specialists at the top of the board in Yamatai. A lot of the game feels similar, but it's quite very, very different. But it's puzzly in the same way. And I loved Five Tribes, as you guys know. So Yamatai, we were looking forward to this. We saw this at Gamma early this year. Got a chance to demo it. And then it came out shortly after that, and yeah, I really, really love this game.
It's gorgeous to look at. I mean, I've been playing, and people walk by and go like, "What is that game?" You got these huge, like, wooden temples and stuff.
Well, and the illustrations too. It's just like those Djinn cards in Five Tribes. The artwork on those and the artwork on these specials cards are some of my favorite artwork in gaming for sure.
Yeah. My number 8 would possibly be in my number 5 with a few little tweaks, and that's Pulsar 2849. This is a fantastic dice drafting game. It's space themed. It's got some really cool dynamics to it. A ton of variability in the way that you play the game and the way it's set up. The graphic design's the only part that the art and the graphic design in that game aren't the best. Same thing with Adrenaline. It's a great game, but it just doesn't appeal graphically to me. However, gameplay-wise, it nailed it. I mean, it's one of the best dice drafting, if not the best dice drafting game this year.
It was a lot of fun. That reminds me of like kind of how we looked at Terraforming Mars last year.
Yeah.
The game's so good it's on the list, despite the fact that it's maybe not the prettiest game in the world.
Yep, absolutely. 7.
7 for me is Spirit Island, which is just a great, difficult, cooperative experience. But I love the theme of it. I love that you are the spirits of the island repelling the evil invaders coming to take, your land. And just there's so many different spirits you can choose to play as, and they're all very vastly different. Like they approach the game from just a core different place. And so you just have tons of variability, and the combos that come out when you have two spirits together, like there's just so many possible combinations that you could play that game 100 times probably and not really see all those combinations.
Yeah. That game just missed my list, but I mean, if you love co-ops, this is a great one because I mean it's a tough co-op.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's a hard co-op, but like you said, the card play, there's some card drafting in there, and just the way the action selections go in that game. Boy, you get a couple spirits out there to start comboing off each other. It's really, really fun, but that is a tough game.
Cool.
Yeah.
What do you have for 7?
Well, Ryan was looking at my list, I think. But my number 7 is Coldwater Crown.
Oh, wow.
And I love that game.
Yeah, it's great.
I mean, I grew up fishing. Who thought they could make actually a good fishing board game?
So the theme did appeal to you?
The theme appealed to me right
okay.
away. I remember actually being, when I was looking last year at the games that were coming out, being like, that's a game I'm kind of anticipating seeing. Cool. And then when it did come out, I mean, I bought it immediately after I played it with you guys, played it multiple times. It's easy to teach, but... And I've come to learn to bring out an expansion. I contacted the guy.
Really?
I asked the guy, I forget his name, from Bellwether Games, and he said, yes, I'm working on an expansion. He had it at Essen, I believe.
Cool.
Or actually,
that'll be
BGG
awesome.
Con, because he had posted a picture about it, and I go, is that a Coldwater Crown expansion? He's like, yes, it is.
Oh, interesting.
So it's just super fun. I mean, everybody that's played it comes away like, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
that was just a fun game.
Yeah.
And it really helps you kind of teach some mechanics that people don't really understand some of these, hobby games.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
Cool. 7.
My number 7 is an area control game. I don't like area control typically, but this one came out this year, and it kind of made it a little more accessible, and it's Viral.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Of course that's on your list.
It's a
course
super.
that's on
I've
your
taught
list.
this game a ton. When we got our copy, I ended up taking it wherever I was going and teaching it. I don't know. I think I played it like 3 or 4 times just in the span of a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And the core mechanics of it are so fun and simple with the cards that you're playing, and it's. I like the art anyway. It's not maybe appealing to sort of the more hardcore enthusiast gamer, but it's definitely a family or gateway game to area control through and through. Like I can't think of a better gateway to area control personally than Viral.
It's you say it's gateway, but yeah, it does have like a great amount of depth.
Oh,
Oh
absolutely.
no, sure.
Yeah.
It's
For
very
experienced
accessible.
players.
Anyone can sit down and play it, and people can look at that board and not get overwhelmed with, oh, what's this all about? I mean, they see a human body. It's things you can relate to. It's cute. It's clever the way the theme kind of comes into play.
Oh, it's a smart game. I mean, working in healthcare and seeing that, like, wow, this is anatomically and physiologically correct how you got to move your pieces. So I can really appreciate on that end as well. But that's a super fun game.
Yeah, and it's beautiful looking.
Yes.
Game, for sure.
Cool. My next number 7 is also Pixie Queen. This is one of those games that when I read the rules, I pretty much knew I was going to like it. But it's also one of those games that the first 2-3 minutes, when you sit down and you play the game, you're like, I'm going to love this game. Just knowing from those first moves and explaining it to you guys how all the pieces move together and work together, I think it's genius. I think the game is very, very smart.
It does some things I didn't expect. I mean, whenever we play a game and you see those mechanics kind of come out for the first time, and you're like, oh, that's cool. I've never seen that in a game before. Plus, the game was just fun. It just kind of kept doing that as we played it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Very cool game. 6.
All right, 6 for me is Heaven and Ale, which, man, did I love this game. I mean, it's...
But not as much as your top 5, apparently.
So
there are 5 games you love more.
There are. That's really what it boils down to. This was... I guess I should say this now. When you start to look at the top 5 for me, and probably for a lot of us, like, there's not a wide degree of difference from my 1 to my 5. They're all just fantastic. And I really had to boil it down to how many times am I going to play it. Like, I love Heaven and Ale, but I don't know that I'll play as much as some of the other ones on my list. Mm-hmm. But there's so much going on in that game. And when you first look at it, you're like, how do these pieces fit together? And I'll admit, for like the first turn, I was just like, I can't even figure this game out. But then I was watching, you guys, the experienced players, and kind of seeing what you were doing. And it's like, oh, okay, like this is just kind of clicked for me. Mm-hmm. And man, I can't wait to play it again.
It does have some mechanics that I think, well, I mean, you play a lot of games, but playing that with someone who's never played a lot of enthusiast games, some of those things are new. When the way you're going around that track, basically just deciding to go as far as you possibly want, is something that a lot of people are like, wait, I can just go all the way around if I want. That's
I think that it's
smart.
It's,
no, not smart. You can make those mistakes.
But it's a great teaching game. I think a lot of people are going to, the first time they play, they're going to sit down and go, oh man, I'm just going to jump and take all the best. And then you realize halfway through the game, wait a minute, the guy that's in last place kind of just coming behind me, taking all the stuff I skipped. So it's really hard to
And that's just the genius of Kiesling. He just makes games that are simple to understand, but have incredible depth.
Yeah, we might have to do another list sometime of designers of the year.
Why, is your number 6 also a Kiesling game?
No, it is not.
Was that a segue?
No, my number 6 was when I first saw it. I was like, wow, that theme totally, I love the theme. And I was like, okay, it's got good pedigree, and that is Transatlantic. I just got into my hands.
Super brand new, too.
Yeah. Super brand new, just came out from Rio Grande Games.
Yep.
So, but it's by the guy who did Concordia and Navigator, if you played any of those, so they take similar mechanics from that. But we've played it at 3 and 4 players, and it's just been totally enjoyable. Really, really look forward to actually playing more games of that, because I could see there's a lot of depth, especially in just the unique card play that you use in that game.
I'd be interested to see what your take on Concordia is.
Yeah,
because I love Concordia. I like it more than Transatlantic, but if you like that game, it'll be interesting to see. I know
Almost
you
like
have
a segue to
Well, you have an
Concordia.
affinity towards ships too. You like
I do. I love ships.
So.
Yeah, you love anything history too, and that game has a lot of rich history. It even has a little booklet with all the history on the ship.
History and fish.
History and fish. If there's a
Something in the
game about
water.
Hey, I have a game for you.
historic fish.
Historic fish.
What do you got?
So my number 6 is Altiplano. This is.
I knew that. When you told me it may not be in your list, I did not believe you.
I was. It was wavering for a little while, and there were so many good games, but it did make my list at number 6. And it's probably not higher, only because thus far, every time I've played it, it is a little on the long side. Like
a little.
It's pretty long. If you like, I don't think I'd ever play this. Certainly not with 5, and I'd probably avoid it with 4. This sounds like criticisms, but I love the game. Mm-hmm. I love the game for the same reasons I love CORLEONES.
Right.
It's very, very similar to CORLEONES. There's some variable aspect to the way the board is set up, and I really like that extra layer of the movement around the space in order to do certain actions. Like, you can't just fill up spaces on your board and do those actions like CORLEONES. You also have to maneuver a guy around this area in order to do those. So it adds just an extra layer of complexity there. Mm-hmm. I really like that there's a lot of different ways of scoring your points. People go really heavy on building the houses, I think, like you did in our first game, or filling up your warehouse. And it's gorgeous to look at. The artwork
on the
artwork on the front of that. Some people I've heard aren't fans of that. I love it.
I love the llama.
Yeah,
I love that on the cover. It's
like
a
a little
great
mascot.
American theme. It's cool.
Right.
I totally dig that. My number 6 is also Heaven and Ale. I think it's the best
nice.
Kiesling game this year. I like it better than Azul. for the simple fact that it's meteor. It feels like a
Yeah,
Euro.
sure.
It is so smart. The way that you play that game, that track, most people think it's like a Glenmore track where the furthest person behind goes. Nope, you're going in turn order, and the decisions that you make are going to lock you in. If you go too far, you're going to skip a lot of things. People can observe that at the table and take advantage of that. The monks are incredibly deceptive when you play that game. The first time you play it, you don't realize the power of them.
Absolutely.
As you play it over and over, you realize how powerful. So those become key lock positions on the map or on the track. It's a fascinating game. It's really, really good.
Yeah, you make a good point. That whole aspect of the track. There's so many times where I'm sitting there waiting for my turn to come around and hoping, don't go there, don't go there, don't go there. And then inevitably someone will go where I wanted to go and take that monk or whatever, and it's like, oh, and then you just have to adjust and make a new plan. That is a good game.
Yeah. Number 5.
All right, number 5 for me is the opposite of the heavy Euro game. So I might be a little surprised to see it on this list, but
I know it. Fantasy Realms.
It's not Fantasy Realms. It's Barenpark, actually.
Now there you go.
Which I just loved it. I mean, it's so light, it's so easy to play, but it's so puzzly that like every time you play, you can't just do the same strategy every game. There's a variety of objectives to complete. Every board I've had just kind of looks different. I feel like when I play Patchwork, I kind of go for the same strategy every single time. But Barenpark, you kind of have to do a different thing every time you play.
Especially if you've got those objectives out there.
Yeah,
it's just going to change
it's
everything.
simple, but I mean, I love it.
The variable objectives.
I've played so much of it this year. I think I'm going to just play a ton of it next year, and that's why it made it on the list.
Yeah, that's going to be a game that's going to probably hit the table quite a bit over the holidays when I have relatives in town, because again, this has been a great year for gateway games, and I squarely put that as an excellent gateway.
Yep.
My number 5 is also near and far, for many of the reasons that have already been said. But there's been this trend of puzzle-y games or puzzles put into games, and also story-driven games.
Yep.
It's almost like we love video games because of the stories that are in them. You really start to see this, I think, a lot more in these board games as well. I'm sure there's more going to pop up in these lists, but it's just got a great story. Like it's kind of hit and miss with me. But this one was just a huge winner.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with a lot of the story-driven games is that they're so story-dependent.
Right.
This game pushes you in just the right moments
Right.
every single time that you do something, and it doesn't linger there.
Right.
It doesn't linger there where you have to reading a giant paragraph every
Right.
time to people.
It's just
and
enough.
people are checking their phones and doing stuff.
Right.
Yeah, it's just enough to go to the next thing.
Yeah. Well,
to keep you interested in whatever's going on.
Right.
And a lot of the story elements that come up make you wonder how it's going to impact the game.
Exactly.
Not just, oh, that's interesting story. It's like, oh, what's going to happen when I get
And
there?
it's not just what's happening to you. I want to hear what's happening to you because
Right.
that affects something that could happen down the line. It's neat. It's
Let
really
alone
cool.
maybe not even that game, but a future game.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, oh, there's that guy again.
Yeah,
He's back.
We need to go through and finish.
Yeah, we're talking about it here. We're going to be
like,
playing
so
near and
excited
far
about
right
it
after
again.
this, I'm sure.
What you got for 5?
So number 5, we've talked about it a couple times now. I have Heaven and Ale as well. I won't say too much about the game. I will say this. Thanks to Gary, actually, I've become a big Kiesling fan this year. It doesn't hurt that Kiesling has been cranking them out this year.
What was the third one he came out with this year?
Reworld with Kramer.
Yeah.
Reworld.
Azul, and then Heaven and Ale.
Riverboat.
And Riverboat.
And Riverboat.
that's
That's
the other
right.
one.
And
All right.
Riverboat,
It's a good
spoiler
game.
alert,
All 4 games
just
are
missed my list was
yeah.
Riverboat as
Good
well.
game, yeah.
But Heaven and Ale, great game. I can't wait to play this. I think it's very playable at 2. I haven't played it at 4.
Played it
Or did we play it at 4?
I think we played it
Just
at 4.
3?
We played it at
Yeah,
4.
it plays great at all player counts.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can't wait to play that more this
That's what all his
Christmas.
games are, especially the Kiesling Kramer games. They play great at 2, 3, or 4. They just
And it
scale
has that
so
same
well.
puzzly element like you were
Yeah.
just saying about a lot of games.
Super clever.
So many games this season have those, you acquiring tiles and putting them on there, and this one's so interesting with the sort of the shaded
Light and
and
the
the
dark.
sun part. It's
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
really
Sun.
good.
I think my number 5 before today would have surprised you guys. Maybe after today it doesn't, but I have a game for you. It's got ships and it's got fish, and that's Newsford. I love this Rosenberg game. I think it's fascinating. It's super fast. It's a worker placement with only 3 workers. You play 7 rounds, and you can play in 30 minutes. I mean, once you know the
That
game,
fast.
it is
It's fast.
super, super fast. It's smart. It's got a lot of different combinations of things you can do. The fish track on it is amazing. I love this game. I'm absolutely in love with it.
It
One
was
of my
great,
favorite.
and was very different from any of his other games, honestly, right?
It's like in the middle.
It's got that DNA from all the other stuff he's done, but it does a couple different things here to tweak that formula a little bit. Plus, it's variable. I mean, you have all the different kinds of buildings that you can introduce. You can even mix all the different stacks of buildings together.
Yeah, his lighter games historically haven't felt as much like his heavier games to me. This one feels like a nice, tight, fast game that's closer to the typical Rosenberg experiences like Caverna and Agricola.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's good.
I think you'll like it too, Gary.
Yeah, I look forward to playing it.
Fish and chips.
Chips and chips.
Number 4.
We're
Number four.
number 4 now, right? Number 4 for me is Pulsar 2849, which just, I loved it. I mean, I agree with you when you say that it is probably the coolest take on dice drafting I think I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And when you sit down, like I know of me and probably you as well, when you sit down and you say, you get 2 actions, like, that's it? You're like, what am I even going to do with that? And then you start playing it and you're like, every single thing you do with that die feels satisfying.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're always doing something. Like you're never just like, oh, I guess I'm just gonna throw this die away and take a gold like you can like in Marco Polo or other games like that. Like there's always something to do with your dice, and you're always pushing yourself forward, and you're always scoring points, and it's just really satisfying.
The other great thing about too is the game is short enough where it doesn't feel like you can do everything. You always have a choice, and
absolutely.
you can't finish everything you want to do, and that's the mark of a good game for me too. Because by the end of it, your tableau is not full of everything that you want it to do.
Right.
You're making very smart decisions about the way you're going to score points, and at the end, when you have these objectives that you're trying to score, you're going to be lucky to score one of them, if that. I mean, you're not going to get all of them, and I love that about the game.
It was fun too, puzzling out. I remember in our first play, puzzling out my last move that perfectly. I had just enough power from the dice to move around the board and chain something to move a little bit more and perfectly maximize the points I was going to get that turn, which is super sad. It was almost a very combo-y type
and you
experience.
kind of get that light bulb experience too when you're looking at the board and you're like, this is how I'm going to get all my points. Like it just kind of clicks.
Until someone else goes in there and puts a Pulsar.
4.
All right, my number 4 is Ethnos from CMON. This game is so much fun. I've taught it to numerous people. Probably the one game all year I've taught to the most people. One, because it's so easy to teach. It's it's simple to learn. It's either you play a set of cards or a card, or you take a card. That's it.
Yeah.
Right.
And then there's that area control part aspect of it. But it's the variability with all the multiple monsters that you can play with, because you only play 6 out of the 12 or whatever they give you. And it's just a great game. It looks weird when you the box cover. It's so dark. I don't know why they chose that, but they did. But I remember we had that game for quite a while.
We had it for 2 months.
Everybody did.
We had it for a long, long time, and we have to give credit to was it Marty?
It was at CMON.
At
It's
the
the CMON Expo.
At the CMON Expo, I think Marty Connell of Rolling Dice and Taking Names said, "You guys have to try this. If you haven't played, you've got to try this. You'll love it." And we did, and man, it was fun. And what's great about that game, play it 6 players, play it 3 players.
Right.
It moves like lightning.
Right.
At 6 players, you're like, oh, it's my turn again. It's unbelievable.
And the pressure-like aspect of it, and waiting for those dragons to come out, is so much fun. Especially with people sitting around like, oh, no, don't pick another card. Or, no, pick another card. I want this round to end.
Yeah.
So much fun. I love Ethnos.
What's your number 4?
My number 4 is a game that probably would have been, not this game, but its predecessor would have been on my list last year had I played it. But I didn't play it last year. But this year I've been playing Pandemic Legacy Season 2 with my girlfriend Alicia. And I don't know if most people play this with 4 players or people play it with 2. I know you've played it with your wife all the way through. We're still in the middle of it. It is a great couples game. I would say, and you've said this before, that could be a family game. That could be anyone can play this game, and it is so engrossing.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
It pulls you in, and it's been such a fun experience. When I first suggested to Alicia, hey, we got to commit to this if we're going to play it, because she's not as big of a gamer at all. But she said okay, and she's been like, we played through April. We lost our first game. She wanted to play again immediately, which I was actually thinking we were going to, but she did. So the game is so much fun, and the narrative is fun, and it can be very difficult. We were rolling along with a lot of success, and then all of a sudden, Gary was saying, just wait, the pain is going to come.
The pain is coming.
And it did. It came in April
But it makes
twice.
you want more.
Yeah,
you know?
we're looking forward this weekend. We're going to jump back in and get a few more months done.
My number 4 is Santa Maria. Again, this is one of those puzzle Tetris type games where you're fitting things on a board and then enacting a dice drafting mechanic to activate rows or columns on them to do very special abilities. Where you have Barenpark, which is a much more entry-level gateway type game. This takes it up a notch. This is definitely a midweight Euro style game that uses that same type of feel where you're building this board out and then doing certain actions on them. I love the game. It is a longer game than what we expected because it's surprisingly thinky.
Oh man, yeah, it is. we just the two of us. Our first game we were playing, and
hour and a half at least.
It took an hour and a half, and the box doesn't even.
And
say
that's not
90 minutes.
that's not indicative of what you're going to be playing after you played it one time.
Sure.
But trying to understand when to activate those dice and when to hold off, and it's also really cool because it's not just your basic. It is a one player, the next player, but you can extend the round out by doing actions that do something else that allow you to get more coins to be able to do something else. It gives you a tile that you can activate with a dice to do something else, which could possibly give you another dice that could do something else.
That is the perfect way to put it, because you're basically trying to extend your turn as much as you can and milk each turn for everything it's worth. And it's all starting usually with a die or one action.
Yeah.
And you do that action to get this action, and that's going to allow me to, just like Jeremy
Extremely
said,
satisfying.
it's really, really satisfying.
All right, 3.
We're on to 3 already. Man, this was a tough year. 3 for me. You almost guessed it earlier, but Fantasy Realms. It's just a good game. I mean, I didn't know what to expect when I sat down and played it the first time, but it's really cool. It's every card in the deck is unique, which is something I loved about Terraforming Mars, and I love it when games do that. Every card is unique. Every card has a very specific purpose. And when you're trying to make these combos, you'll find that like certain cards work better with certain combos, but then the other half of that combo might actually work better with another combo.
Yeah.
And then you start grabbing that combo and realize, well, this card works better with this other and next thing you know, you're just like trying to chain together all these combos to make, the best hand of 7 cards. And as soon as you're done, you're like, wait a minute, let's play again. I want to try to go for this other combo now. Even like it's like an endless amount of combinations of these cards that you could play.
With also a game with a fun press your luck aspect toward the end of that, because people might I want to try to end this game out and get these cards out there.
Yeah, when you think
but
you're
it's
ahead,
my
you want
favorite
to try to end
filler
the game as fast
right
as
now.
possible.
Yeah, the way you
Absolutely.
discard the cards,
because
or
once
choose
it's
your cards.
it's 10 cards, at 9 or 10 cards. Once they're out on the table, then game ends.
Yeah, that's really
I think
good.
that's also like the perfect game. Like I watch. Do you guys watch Shark Tank at all?
Oh yeah.
You know when they talk about taking an IP and then selling that product to different IPs, like they could sell that to FFG and do like a Star Wars game or a Harry Potter game, and just use that same core mechanic, but also license it. I think
Or even use
it's like the perfect game to do that.
Use their Marvel license. And
Oh my
gosh,
do
that'd be
some-
fantastic.
I'd play a Marvel Fantasy Realms.
Marvel Fantasy Realms,
I'd play
make
that all
it
day
happen,
long.
Zev.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, that'd be
that's
cool.
my favorite filler. That's just a fun filler.
Yeah, Fantasy Realms is another one of those games we played at the end of the night a lot of times.
Yeah.
Just to
It's quick. We quick 3
Yeah, and I
games
know
in.
it's not a
20 minutes.
heavy game, but
Yeah.
but it makes you make smart decisions.
Right.
Like you have to make smart decisions to win that.
Number 3, might surprise you, it's not my number 1, but Pandemic Legacy.
Oh,
That
wow.
does
Season
surprise
2.
me.
I know what your number 1 is.
I'm sure you do. Keep your mouth shut over there.
Everybody here knows what your number 1 is.
Probably.
But I'll just say this. I played Season 1 twice. It was an amazing experience. I understand why it's number 1 in the world. What I love about Season 2, it totally changed the story. It kept the same base mechanics, but almost flipped it inside out and made you work out.
Yeah.
And I love that so much. And they've almost streamlined some of the mechanics as well from the first season. So it's just another automatic winner. I mean, Matt Leacock and Rob Davio have just killed it with that. I look forward to Season 3.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I really wanted this to be on my list. It's not on my list, but only because I
Shame.
didn't.
Because you
I
didn't love
get
it as much
far-
as the other ones.
I didn't get as far into it as I wanted
Oh,
to by
right.
the time we had to make this list. We're only in February right now. Like we haven't really had. So I really want to get in there and
Well,
get
you reserve the
deeper
right to
into it.
change your list.
Yeah, there you go.
I-
In 6
feel
months
like-
when I might change
I
mine.
feel like
Maybe.
when I finish the game, it's probably going to be like, wow, I wish this had been on my list.
You got
All
for
right. So
3.
my number 3, we've talked about this already. It's Ethnos. I'll just add one thing, kind kind of hot off the heels of you talking about Fantasy Realms. There's a few games that came out this year that were truly surprise hits with us. And I think Fantasy Realms was one. I think Ethnos would probably take the prize, though, for that surprise hit. This and once everyone started playing it, then it started selling out everywhere.
Oh, it was hard to find it for a while.
It was hard to find, and I think it just came back into stock at most stores just about a month or so ago. So if you get a chance, get out there and get a copy of this. It's a lot of game for a really good value, too.
Oh,
and
yeah.
anyone can play this. I'd like to say it's a good entry level to area control also, like Viral. But I never feel like it's area control. I mean, that's obviously part of the game, but more of the game is just that card play. And it feels like a party game, too, when you're playing it. Like you were saying, when you're waiting for that dragon, there's big outbursts at the table when that thing blows up.
There it is.
Oh, or when it's the last card and you get through the whole deck and one of the dragons is at the bottom. Such a fun experience.
Yeah. My number 3 is also Pandemic Legacy Season 2. I'll take it a step further and say that I think the core mechanics in this one are better than the original. I'm not a huge fan of just Pandemic, and basically Pandemic Season 1 was just Pandemic with the legacy aspect. So I was worried when they were talking about this one on knowing that they were going to rebuild the entire game, but as you said, the sense of exploration in this game and discovery and opening those boxes and scratching off things is phenomenal. It's such a cool experience. And by the end of it, the way that you approach the game, I know if you and I sat down, or if you and I sat down afterwards and talked about it, the things that we've discovered when they've discovered them are completely different by the end of it.
Well, Gary and I have risked spoiling each other at times and talked a little bit about it without trying to be too spoilery, and it became very evident. And we were in the same general vicinity of each other.
At one time, yeah.
At one point, and we had done some things that he
Totally
had
different
not come
experiences.
close to doing, and I can't even fathom how he could be trying the next months without having done what we did.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
like because we had this
went a
big
different
element.
route.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really, really
Yeah,
cool.
I mean,
That's smart.
all I could say to designers is if you want a master class on how to create a legacy game, play this game
Yeah.
from beginning to
Absolutely.
end. Figure out what it takes to make people become engrossed in that storyline.
It sucks you right in.
I think
Absolutely.
all those designers are doing just that so that they can crank out the legacy games.
Yep. Number 2, we're
right,
getting to the end here.
Into the end, number 2. This was a hard 2-1 was kind of hard for me, but I went with, again, a game that I'm playing a lot of and a game that I'm going to play a lot of in the future. This might not be a big surprise, but it's Azul.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's short, it's quick. You can throw it on the table and be playing in 5 minutes. It just finds its way to the table a lot. And we're kind of on the point where we play on the advanced side of the board now. So trying to puzzle out that advanced side of the board where it is almost like a Sudoku puzzle, really, I couldn't tell you the number of times I've gone to place a tile and gone, shoot, like I can't, I need to put this here, and I can't because I screwed up. Let's play another game after this one. I want to try to do it right.
Yeah, the issue is that people often make the mistake and don't catch themselves when you play. If you've played with people who just played it for the first time, then you flip over the board and play it a second game, oftentimes we've found people like, oh, wait a minute. No, you couldn't have done that.
Yeah, right.
You cheated.
There's a little bit of a learning
By
on
accident,
that.
but
It
they
happens.
did.
You're a terrible tile layer.
Yeah.
But man, the more I play it, the more I just see the strategies coming clear. And a lot of people have said that they don't like it because it's too mean. And I have an opposite opinion. I kind of disagree with anybody that says that because it can be mean if you play it that way. But if you don't sit
That's
there,
how we play it.
well, if you sit at the table and you,
But it's fun. It's
different with
And
every
it has
group
to
you
be.
play
It
with.
has to
Right.
be mean. I mean, it's not hugely mean. It's just it oftentimes comes down to that being that guy gets stuck with a big
it's-
bunch
I
of
wouldn't
red
even call it
tiles.
even being mean. It's just like
It's part of the game. It's part of
that's-
pool drafting.
Right.
itself.
Yeah.
That's
You're
what-
go-
you're gonna
somebody's
be left
gonna
with
get
whoever's
stuck
pool
with
doing
the
it.
drafting
one they
is
don't
so
like.
much fun anyways. I
Yeah.
mean, you might get what you want, you might not.
Yeah.
You kind of sit there
Yeah.
and go, oh, we didn't take that.
Yeah.
You get what you get.
Right.
So don't throw a fit.
I
Don't quit your day job.
What's your number 2, Gary?
My number 2, I almost forgot, is I went for the quadfecta, I guess, Heaven and Ale.
Oh, there we
Yeah.
go.
On all of our lists.
Yeah, that was the only game I think
first
on all of our.
crossover,
Yeah.
okay.
So far, at least.
So what else is there to say? I love the game. I'm a
Good,
huge
yeah.
Kiesling fanboy now after playing so many of his games, after dipping back into his older stuff
Yeah,
like you.
Sans Souci.
Oh, Palaces of Carrara started me on the Kiesling, and
Yeah.
I've just gone from there. But it's just a fantastic game. It just needs to be in your collection.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the
What do
point.
you got?
My number 2 hasn't been mentioned yet, and that's Bunny Kingdom.
It's like, yeah, that is a great
Bunny
game.
Kingdom is absolutely a fantastic game. It looks gorgeous. If you think it's a bunnies, forget it. Shut up and go try it. The game is fantastic. It is, in my opinion, and you may disagree with this because Seven Wonders you hold in such high regard. I've never had more fun playing a pure drafting game than with Bunny Kingdom.
Oh, it's one of the best drafting games out there, for sure.
I've said this before, every time you're looking at your cards and deciding what ones to keep, I've never experienced like I want to keep this one, but I want to keep this one too, and I don't want him to have this one.
Right.
It's such a really good experience, and I love the cute bunnies and the whole mechanism in the middle of the table with the board, the way that's being built out, and you're sort of, it's not area control, but you're sort of territory building. Really, really good game. And it has a nice ramping up score too, where it kind of starts off small, but by the end of the game, you're like in the hundreds of points.
Yeah.
It's a great game.
Beautiful game.
Beautiful, yeah,
I wish
absolutely.
I would
The
maybe
cards.
a tiny bit bigger
Right.
board and bunnies, but
Yeah.
I want a
that's probably my
special
only
edition
thing.
with the bigger board.
Oh,
is what
yeah.
I want.
Deluxified.
Deluxified version.
I absolutely toiled over number 2 and number
bet.
1, and if I say this is a number 2, I'm not sure you guys are going to know my number 1, to be quite honest, but Seventh Continent is my number 2.
I'm shocked.
Seventh Continent is a fascinating game. I don't think it'll ever hit retail, unfortunately, just because of the cost to make that game. It is basically how would you guys describe this game? I can't even really describe it.
It's an adventure,
It's
right?
an adventure.
It's kind of choose your own adventure.
It is kind of
aspects
adventure.
With more game.
But
With way
there's
more
the
game.
great thing is there's no book. There's nothing you have to go to. There's no
Right.
manual or pamphlet you have to read. Everything is self-contained on the cards themselves. And you are pulling things from this giant box of just cards, like 4x4 cards, and laying it out and building a map. Actually, if I took all the cards out and built the map of the Seventh Continent, it would fill our entire downstairs floor.
Well, it's
a
like
huge-
1,200 cards in there.
It's
tiles.
a massive amount
Yeah.
of cards, but the actual gameplay itself, it's a Euro game. There's no dice. You're using the deck of cards, which is your life, to manage everything that you do. You're building, you're crafting stuff like Zelda, and using those things to be able to go on certain quests or to unlock specific things in the game. It's a fascinating game. Again, it's one of those games, looking back to the very beginning of this episode, talking about like people taking a chance. Like there's nothing like it. There is zero games like Seventh Continent. And the amount of writing and design time it would have taken to make this is phenomenal. I can't imagine how much time they've
Because it tells a
taken.
good story. It's just not throw a story in there and make this tile game. I mean, it got a good story.
It's
Yeah,
cool.
it's the kind of thing that would have been, you'd expect that to be developed as a computer game.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
But they've done it on a tabletop, which is what's crazy. Like
Yeah.
that, the amount of time and effort that it takes to put all those parts together is insane. And that's a lot of people have mentioned that it's kind of like one of those old point and click adventures, or it gives off that vibe, but on a table. I remember my experience playing it felt that way too. Yeah, it's gorgeous looking too.
Yep. Number
Number
one.
Here it is, number
My
one.
number one,
His
my
most loved game.
my most loved game of the year, and this is. I honestly, I went back and I looked. What game did I play?
I know it. Mario Monopoly.
It's not Mario Monopoly, and we've all talked about it already, so it's not, I guess, that big of a spoiler. But I just said, what game did I play the most of? And it surprised me actually how many times I played this game this year, and it was Ethnos.
Oh, okay.
Actually. And just the more I think about Ethnos, it's not my normal kind of game. It's not super heavy. It's not a 4X. It's not the kind of games, worker placement, or anything that I normally play. But God, I love playing that game.
The
I
fun
mean,
factor's off the charts.
It's
Like,
just it's that,
fun.
and I think that's what brought it to number one for me. Is I've never sat down and said, meh, when I've played that.
Yeah.
Like every time I've played, I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot how much fun this game is. And I want to keep playing because, again, I've played that game probably 30 times this year. And I have not, you don't see all the different combinations.
I don't think you will see that
Because there's so many different races. And every time I play, I'm like, oh, I can use this with this. Like, oh, there's a synergy here that I never even
saw.
after 30 games, I never saw. And so, like, it's one that people are like probably shaking their heads like, number one. And it kind of surprised me when I was making my list, like,
I don't think that's a surprise
No,
to
I
most
think
people.
if-
It's such a
I kept trying to,
well-loved
I was
game
like,
once
where do I
people
want
play
to put
it.
Ethnos? And I was like, the more I think about it, the more I just,
If people,
Love
anyone who's played it is probably going, yeah.
Yep.
But if not, you haven't played it, and you should, for
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, the problem is it's deceptive. When you look at it on the shelf, you would never think that the game inside of it is the game that you would play.
No, I
Exactly.
didn't.
That's
It
the
took me a
problem.
long
I think
time.
that's why so many people didn't play it, especially the
Yeah.
reviewers,
Yeah.
until the
Yeah.
whole CMON event. And like, and all of a sudden, here are all these reviews, and then they sold out.
Yeah.
That's when I bought mine. I heard all the CMON hype. You guys said love it. I actually bought it without even playing it. Because I was like, all this hype coming out. I was like, this
You
is
buy a
gonna
lot without playing it.
I don't. Well, with Kickstarter,
They
I
have
do,
a game
but
to sell.
I actually think I was with you when you bought it over at FTG. We
yeah,
bought
I
it.
was like, I got to get this game before it goes off the shelf because everybody was starting to say, go get it. You're
yeah.
gonna love
a
it.
lot of the reviewers did hit late and at the same time, and then it kind of blew
Yeah.
up. That's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, and
true.
when I grabbed mine, there was only one copy left even. So I was like, I need to get, and I have not regretted it once.
Expansions. That's what I want for Ethnos.
that's why I
more
think-
factions.
I think I'm going to play a lot next year because I'm sure there's going to be
I would hope
expansion
so.
or-
I
or-
would hope so.
it's ripe for them.
I'll do Gary's number one because I'm pretty sure I
Everybody
know.
knows
Is it
Gary's.
now? My number one is Gloomhaven.
Oh, surprise!
What?
I know. Look, I think it's number 2 game in the world. It will be number 1. All the second the backers for like the
second edition of it, or
round,
whatever you wanna
yeah,
say,
whatever
yeah.
they call it, are just now getting it. As much as I love Pandemic, look, Gloomhaven is just going to soar
You've
past
also
it,
played
number
like
1.
30-some games.
I played
of
like
that.
30-some games. Basically, we finished
Whoa.
it, and we still didn't do all the side quests. Look, this game has its own like devoted community. A lot of games do, but this one is like a
Passionate
community.
about it, yeah.
If I checked today, there was like over 5,000 threads.
Wow.
Okay,
on BGG.
on BGG, 5,000 threads with posts in each one of those.
That's amazing.
And they're even writing more stories. Isaac, look, he tapped into something big, and it can be its own world. He's already kind of based another game coming out soon, Founders of Gloomhaven, just a separate game, but it's in that world. And we didn't even open up all the characters.
Yeah.
And it's so well done. All the cards are different. The
they did a-
gameplay is great.
They did a great job about making you invested in your character, and not only
Yeah.
that, but like you want to go out, you want to come back to the city because those events could trigger things in the future. But also, this isn't on my list. I absolutely love that they took a chance and they didn't do it like an Ameritrash dice rolling
Right.
combat resolution. They did a Euro driven hand management game where the cards in your hand are your life. That's and it's done to such perfection, and all the different characters are such different in the way they play. It
was a
great.
bold move to try something new just like that.
Yeah.
And I think what he turned into is truly an all-time great.
Yeah.
I think you will be talking about Gloomhaven for years to come.
And it's amazing too because it's a lot of game. I mean, it's like
It's a 22-pound box.
Well, yeah. Not only that, it's just a lot of game for people who aren't hardcore gamers. And given that, there's an amazing amount of people who are playing Gloomhaven. Like the success that it had, it was phenomenal. And given the fact that it's such a meaty game that got that success is impressive.
2 of the players that are in my group that we played this, they weren't husband and wife. They weren't big gamers, and they fell right into it.
Cool.
I mean, they were the ones like, let's paint our minis. We painted our minis. You
Really?
know, let's do it tonight. What can we play another quest? We need to find out what happened on this mountain.
That's awesome.
So
I've
it was
been-
just an amazing
I have been
experience.
dying to play. I feel like Gloomhaven would have easily been on my top 10 if I had gotten to play it. But you're right when you say it's hard to get a group of people together
Yeah.
to
You gotta
play
be
through
committed. You gotta have
that
a committed
big
group.
and that heavy of a
But
game.
if you can, you will love every minute of that
I hope
experience.
maybe in 2018 I'll be able to.
No, something else will come out.
I will-
Gloomhaven 2.
I will also do David's number one because I can see it, but I know it.
It starts with an A and ends in Azul. It is Azul. We've said a ton about this already. If you watch our channel, you've heard me say and Jeremy say a ton about this game. Azul is a game that, in my opinion, almost everyone should have in their collection. I know there are going to be some people who aren't hot on Azul, but I haven't played another game this year that I could confidently say to almost anyone, if you don't have Azul, you should buy it, because I don't think you're going to be disappointed in playing it. I've not played Azul with anyone who left saying, like everyone had a lot of fun playing it. Everyone wants to try it again. I think even the people who don't like it over time, it's after they've played it a while. I don't think anyone doesn't like it after its first play. They play it a few times. It's a really good game. It's unbelievably produced. The tiles are these big, chunky, fat tiles that are just fun to move around.
They almost seem like glass at first.
Yeah, they're
They
hard.
seem
porcelain.
they're very high quality.
Doesn't hurt that it totally fits your wheelhouse too. Like you're an abstract gamer.
Yeah,
for the most, you love
yes, that's
abstract.
true.
You love that it's simple to teach. It's quick to play. It's got a ton of variability in it from one round to the next, or one game to the next.
And I actually like it when I teach a game and the people like it. So
That's true.
It's like
hurt.
it's like a safe bet for me
Yeah,
to
it's-
like take to the
everybody-
table and everyone's like, "Hey, Dave, thanks for teaching
I
that."
only had one person that didn't love it, and it was because they said it just didn't feel like gamery enough. And I said, well, flip it over. And we flipped it over and played the other side, and they were like, I'm going to buy this
It's
game.
gamery enough.
Like,
Yeah.
it's great.
I can't wait
it's
to
a
play it.
must.
Bad argument.
None of my immediate family have played it. They're coming into town. I can't wait. We'll hopefully have a Azul tournament over
It's a
Christmas.
must-have.
Any of you guys guess my number one?
I don't know.
I
now.
would like- I-
Honestly,
I
no,
would
I was
guess.
going to say
Well,
Seventh Continent.
I'm gonna say Gaia Project.
It's Gaia
Oh,
Project.
yeah.
yep.
I mean,
Nice.
I can't. When I was comparing this to Seventh Continent, I can't pull away from my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Terra Mystica is in my top 10. This is a far better game than Terra Mystica for the simple fact that the problem with Terra Mystica is you can't really play it two-player because the board never shrinks. This is a modular board, so it changes with the number
wow.
of players playing different sides, but you're playing with an X number of different star tiles. The research track on this is so much better than the religion track. It ties all that in. It's more concise. Like this game's, if any game this year speaks to the type of gamer I am, it's Gaia Project because it does everything I like in a Euro game. It's incredibly variable. It's competitive. It can be taught fairly easily. I mean, it is a heavier
not like
game.
Azul easy.
No, not like Azul easy, but I mean, it's something that most people can grasp the first time through. But then it has so much variability to it that you could be playing it for years to come and not have the same gameplay. Plus, there's so many different factions in the game. I mean, this is my quintessential type of game.
I can't wait to play it. It looks.
Yeah,
I love the theme and anything space.
It's, I mean,
I
even the
mean, that's
production
awesome.
values. Where in Terra Mystica you had all the wooden components. This has like really cool molded buildings in it.
Cool.
It's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, we'll have to try that as the
Yeah,
four
I'd
of
love
us
to.
together
I'd
for
love
sure.
to play it.
Yep.
So we want to spend. That's our top 10. Hopefully you guys will agree with that.
Or
not.
disagree.
Agree with some of them.
You don't have to
not
agree.
with- does
But you'd be
anyone have
wrong.
some really quick honorable mentions? Because like we said at the beginning,
man.
there's a ton of games, and we won't talk about them ad nauseam. But let's just
It was.
list.
Yeah,
list
It's
some.
too hard to. I mean, there was some that I was surprised when I sat down to make my list. I said Viral and Whistle Stop are going to be on here because I love them. But then when I thought about how many times I've played them and how much I'll play them in the future, I was like, well, here are 10 other games I think I'll play more. But man, if we would done a top 15, like Viral, Whistle Stop, Near and Far.
I
like
think we
those
would have
games
had a
were-
lot more crossover on our
Yeah,
list
sure.
had we
A
gone
little
to
bit.
15.
It's also unfortunate that we haven't had time to play everything that we want to play. Like, I'm looking at our shelves over here on another set, and we had Hunt for the Ring. I am sure, I mean, I love deduction games. They're one of my favorite type of games. And being that it's from the same designers of Letters from Whitechapel, that's naturally, like, totally in my wheelhouse of games. And then Kepler also. That looks like a phenomenal game. I've read through the rules twice. I want to get it to the table, and I think that would probably be on my list as well.
there's
Yeah, we just haven't gotten it to the table.
I'm
you've
still
got-
waiting
you've got
for
one,
Kale
yeah.
Mala. Maybe my Euro transaction.
I know.
If
Yeah,
I
that's
go
another
through, we're
one
still
that we
waiting
haven't
for
had a
that.
chance.
There's some Essen games that
Yeah.
haven't quite reached our shores, or at
It's-
least our
It's
personal
difficult
shores.
with Essen being so late in the year because so many great games come out in Essen. It's so difficult to play all of them in time to do a top 10 list. It's
Yeah.
just.
Yeah.
Another game I would point out is Chimera Station, which
Yeah.
unfortunately just fell like we did a Kickstarter video for that in 2016. It delivered this year to backers, and it also got hit retail for 2017. But we've covered it back in last year.
Yeah.
But it's still such a really smart like worker placement game, and where you're mixing all these like physical 3D aliens together, and
Which
they have
we thought
different
at first
powers.
was just going to be a gimmick, but it's really good.
It's a fascinating game.
It's a really good worker placement game. If you haven't tried Chimera Station, please do. I'd say a couple that we didn't mention at all that I had on sort of I'd say maybe my top 20. Merlin would have been in my top 20. I really like Feld in general. I wouldn't say it's his best, but I really like the experience. And with the Queenie expansion with the extra pieces is really, really good. And then the other one, Rajas of the Ganges. We played it a couple times, had sort of mixed experiences both times. but I really like that game. It's gorgeous, and I love the dice worker placement aspect of that.
2 that probably would have made in my top 20. We did that. One is Fallout. I really enjoyed the Fallout
Smart
game.
game.
It's
We had a lot of fun.
I really thought about
for a
having that on
bigger
my
mini
list.
game. That was a lot of fun. And the other one was Outlive. I thought Outlive was
Outlive
a
is
super
fun.
fun game, and it did well in the Kickstarter, but it seems like maybe it's kind of been lost in the shuffle. I don't hear a lot about it anymore.
That's
maybe
true.
it's because it's kind of hard to find. But you had that amazing deluxe version, but that was a worker displacement game, just the way that mechanic worked, and it was a lot of fun.
Anachrony was close on my list
And
too.
I
Anachrony.
figured Anachrony would have been 11.
Yeah.
It's just
well
such
for you.
it's one of those games. It's just such a hard game to teach. Like even we've been removed from the game now for 6 months. Like I'd have to reread through the rules to even
lot
try
of
to
rules.
remember
Pretty thoroughly.
Pretty thoroughly. Yeah, I mean it's a very dense game, but also very rewarding. It's got a lot of
That
cool
was
stuff
fun.
going on.
That was fun. So that's our top 10. Those are our honorable mentions. Please let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear what your personal top 10 is. We'd love to hear if you didn't like some
Why
of
we're
our
wrong.
games. Yeah. Or
Whose
there's-
list do you
Why
like most?
Ryan
That's
shouldn't
good.
love his game so
whose
much.
list do you like most? That's mine, by the way. But again, thanks for watching. And as always, check us out on Facebook and Twitter and all that. And have a great rest of the year. And we'll be back again this time next year with our top 10 for 2018. You'll probably see a few more videos like this between now and the next month. Thanks a lot.